this thing is just one of a kind. Once you get the hang of this thing, you're in the gym, you're doing work, you're doing whatever, you just put it on. Well, no, this video is not sponsored by Apple. Well, wish it was. These are pretty much high in price, but this thing is not. This is almost mid 2020 and this is the Sony A6000, a Sony mirrorless camera released back in 2014, and it's still worth it somehow, somewhat. This camera has a 24.3 megapixel X-Mode CMOS sensor, which is a crop sensor, and this also uses the X image processor. The newer Sony cameras may have better color science, color depth, but this one is not really lagging behind, but you can see the differences when you compare with them. This doesn't even shoot 4K right now, so why this thing in this 2020? Because this camera has basically everything an entry-level photographer or cinematographer should have or is looking for. And in the lineup, this A6000 is the only cheapest one in this price range. The other ones really jumped up the price tag, but this one is the only one to get if you're on a tight budget. The EVF on this camera is a 1440 OLED screen, which is not something wow, but you can work with it. And as the main screen, a 1921.3-inch articulated, tilting, not purely articulated. You can tilt it upwards and downwards, but you cannot tilt it to yourself or can vlog yourself with this. So this is a major down point with this. Like Sony improved it in their 6400 and 6600 and so on, but you cannot do with this camera. The 24 megapixel sensor is able to catch really high definition pictures with great sharpness and clarity, and the sensor ISO range is 25,600, which is noticeably better than other DSLR and mirrorless cameras in this price range, because the noise it produces in high ISO is really lower than other cameras in this price. You can easily capture stunning photos and videos with this up to 1600 ISO with minimal noise. Next up is autofocus. This camera has a hybrid 179 points face detection autofocus system within a 25 point contrast detect autofocus system to nail the precision. Combining it all together, this is able to get precise focus within just 0.06 second. AFC, the continuous autofocus, is really great when it comes to the video making and continuous shooting. And with that being said, this is a fast camera. It can capture photos up to 11 frames per second. A camera under $400 to capture as fast as this is something you cannot just find. So gradually it's near as fast as an 1DX Mark II is. Just hear this sound. This is a real machine gun. Although buffering takes a little while, why not a camera in this size with this much higher speed with capturing raw images that is 24 megapixel with, well, that takes a lot of power. This camera can record 1080p videos in 60 frames per second, and all the other lower settings are also present, like the 30 and 24 fps, and in PAL mode you can always record in 25 or up to 50 frames per second. It has AVC HD and XAVC codecs, which can record up to 50 megabits per second and which is an uncompressed 8-bit 422. Complementing its video capabilities, this camera has its own stereo microphone to record the audio obviously, but there is a down point to it. This camera does not have any microphone jack, so you cannot just plug in your any microphones with this camera while shooting a video or audio. Well, this is really a downside for the video shooters, because many times you need to have professional audio with your video, but you cannot get it because it doesn't have the port. Although you can use the hot shoe Sony microphone, which is really expensive. It seemed just not worth the money. So if you need better audios with your video, you might have to consider this thing. And this thing has built-in Wi-Fi and NFC connections. I believe this was just one of a kind in its time, and it's still kicking it in 2020, offering all the basic functionalities an entry-level photographer or filmmaker needs. Onto the body design, this camera is really small, lightweight. Some people even may think it to be a point and shoot camera, and also the 16 to 50mm lens which comes with this camera goes so well with the camera ergonomics that some may think this is not even an interchangeable lens, and that makes sense. Sony E-mount offers you a large compatible lenses, all the Sony lenses out there, and also some Sigma and Tamron lenses for the Sony mirrorless lineup, which are really great. There's some down point of this camera, like the headphone jack. Battery doesn't last much longer. I usually have to carry a couple of batteries with me every single time I go to shoot. And if you're planning to shoot long videos with this camera has heating issue like other Sony entry-level mirrorless cameras. This camera would heat up in the normal condition and may stop recording after 10 to 15 minutes because of overheat. And the size is so small that you won't have a better grip with this camera. I usually have my pinkies in my hand because the camera is so small I can't grab it well, so you may not find that much of a confidence holding this camera like you would do in any other DSLRs. Considering the downsides, this camera is a really great camera in its price range still now in 2020. The button lineups, the autofocus, the lens compatibility, high resolution photos, having 180p videos in 60 fps, well, no camera offers you this much in this price. In the Bangladeshi market, you may find this camera is still now within 40,000 bucks or so, and find some used one in a lower price. So who is this camera actually for? If you're a vlogger, then I wouldn't suggest this camera because you don't have the retractable display or the microphone jack, which is really important when it comes to vlogging. If you're a photographer or learning filmmaking or searching for a secondary camera to travel with you, then this would be a great choice for you. And the battery and memory cards are located downside of this camera, which is unusual to me. I have to pull off the camera from my tripod or gimbal every time I try to change the memory card or battery. Don't let the size fool you, this little package has a lot to offer. I hope you had a general idea about this Sony A6000 camera. Previously, we've reviewed the Sony A7 Mark III, which is a full frame camera. If you want to check that out, check out this link here. And if you're loving our contents, then definitely subscribe us down below. It means a lot to us. And I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, spread some positivity, and I'll see you soon. Peace. See you soon.